Hello, hello, everyone. We are starting a new segment here on the Bold Business Podcast. This one's going to be a little more informal, a little fun, but also very interesting. And we're going to have a lot of important goss. What we're going to get here on Culture Pop is the hottest headlines, the do's and don'ts for business, and of course, the cosmic tea. We've got some really interesting stories to get into today for you. Let's get into the Culture Pop. Alrighty, so we have some really cool stories. Like, my goal with this segment is to bring you interesting celebrity pop culture stories that just I think are interesting, that might support you as well in the building and growing of your business, your career, and going after your vision. We're going to talk astrology and human design, of course, all of the things. So let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about. Okay, so there are three main topics that we're going to get into today. By the way, if you've got a story that you want me to cover, if you have a celebrity that you want me to talk about, like, let me know, because I am taking requests. All right, DM me on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you can get a hold of me. Email me, I don't care. Send me what you want me to talk about. Okay, so number one, we need to talk about Taylor Swift. So this is a really interesting one. I attended a Harvard Business Review event all about Taylor. And it was hosted by Harvard Business Review, but it was featuring author Kevin Evers. So you can see the cover of his book here. For those of you who are watching on Substack or YouTube, you can see the image. But the book is called There's Nothing Like This, The Strategic Genius of Taylor Swift. And I attended this event. It was an hour long. They cut it off exactly at an hour, which was very disappointing because there's so much to talk about. But let me tell you, there were people in this event from all over the world. I mean, I wish I could have known the numbers, but the chat was insane. The chat was just as interesting as the author talking about his research and his findings and his hypotheses about Taylor and the way she runs her incredibly successful, like, every record-breaking business, essentially. So she's not just an entertainer, not only a singer and songwriter, not only an artist, not only a businesswoman, not only, the center of a lot of the cultural zeitgeist right now, but hugely influential. And so it's important to look at people of influence to understand what is exactly that they are doing right and what we can learn from it, and potentially also some of the mistakes as well. So I'm going to just tell you a few of the highlights from listening to him talk from this book, which I thought was so interesting because it specifically spoke to things that I have called out and seen in Taylor's human design. I've got other episodes on that. If you're new to the podcast, you can go back and listen to my episode on the 5 human design types, and I talked about 5 different celebrities. Taylor was the one that I talked about when I talked about projectors, because Taylor is a 5-1 splenic projector. We're going to come back to that. So a few of Kevin's hypotheses and findings and thought pieces here were that he said, now, if we look at not only what Taylor is doing, but the realm in which she is doing it. So where are we now in, like, the landscape of entertainment, business, etc.? He says, now we are in the superfan strategy era, where you can only break out because of the fans. It's not like it was back in, like, the days of disco or even like the Britney Spears era, right? Very different. That the labels don't make stars anymore. It's not all from the label and from someone pushing an image of you. That's not going to work anymore like how it used to. Like, a lot of people, I'm a classic movie fan, right? We talk about the studio system. It's not the studio system anymore. You don't get that. It is the era of the superfan strategy, as he calls it. Taylor has always focused on the superfans who want more than music. This is key. This is key. This is a very 5th line strategy. Okay. Another piece, and I agree with him, by the way, and another piece here that I think is interesting is, I want to zero in on this, is how he talks about her strategic business decisions and how he believes she has made them. And none of us know what is going on in Taylor's brilliant mind. None of us understand, none of us will ever know, but we can hypothesize and we can analyze and we can try to learn from some of these decisions that she's made. So this is what he thinks. He says she might have made risky decisions based on personal feelings. There's a lot of that as you look at her career. But then she also goes all in on the strategies behind them. And this is his opinion. He said she seems more of an instinctual decision maker than a calculated one. And people were arguing this back and forth in the chat, right? The chat was on fire, as we can expect, because we had the Swifties, we had people who were really familiar with her, people who were not familiar with her, people were talking about, the decision to do folklore, the decision to re-record Taylor's version of her albums, so that she could, own her music again, and own the masters and all these things. We talked about, reputation and kind of, fighting back against and talking about, this is who I am. You don't decide who I am. I decide who I am. The way that she releases music, it's not in a big, oh, let me go sit on the couch with all of these talking heads, or let me have this big campaign or whatever. It's like, hey, I'm going to invite fans into my home and I'm going to do it my way. And I'm just going to talk specifically to the fans. No one is going to be in between me and my fans. So there's all of these really interesting and very unusual business decisions that she makes that no other artists really do, or at least not at the scale that she does, that are, as he says, instinctual rather than calculated. Now, we can debate all day whether they are calculated or not. But I do think that there's a nugget of truth probably in here when we look at her human design, thinking about how instinctual Taylor is, how she makes decisions based on what she feels in her heart, rather than, oh, I think this will make me popular, or I think this is a good business move, or, oh, I think this is going to make me a lot of money. I'm sure there are money driven decisions, but a lot of the decisions, when you look at them in hindsight, they make a lot of sense because we're like, oh, that was genius. But when in the moment, a lot of people were telling her, don't do that. Like when she switched from, Kevin uses the example of when she switched from country music to pop, her label was trying to stop her. They were like, don't do this. This is a huge mistake. She's like, no, I know that this is what I need to do. So in hindsight, things look obvious, right? Of course, she should have switched to pop, of course. But, at the moment, they were risky. And she bet on herself and she trusted her own instincts and intuition. Where do we see that in the chart? She's a splenic projector, right? Projectors are really good at sitting, we call it like sitting on the bird on the branch, right? Or the bird on the wire, looking out ahead. They can see the future and see what's coming, and they have this like spidey sense for direction, right? And that's why projectors are so good at being advisors and consultants and helping people to figure out their next steps, their direction, right? But being a splenic projector, that spidey sense, that splenic authority, this is how Taylor makes decisions. This is her decision-making process, right? Being a splenic authority means that she has these little subtle, quiet flags that tell her exactly what she wants to do. And if she trusts those above any other so-called experts, she will always be steered in the right direction. Splenic instinct is not logical. It doesn't make sense, but it makes dollars. Little joke there. Okay, but yeah, so splenic, if you are a splenic projector, pay attention to this. Make sure that you are trusting that splenic voice. It is soft, it is quiet, and it will not steer you wrong. Remember Taylor. Okay. One other thing that I highlighted here in my notes. She tends to make her best and riskiest decisions at the height of her popularity. That's brave, right? That takes ovaries, big ovaries to be able to do that, right? She tends to make her best and riskiest decisions at the height of her popularity. How many people can you say that about? Most people, when they become really popular, they have, so much to quote unquote lose, right? They're not going to make risky decisions. They're going to play it safe. Taylor doesn't do that. And she is playing exactly the way that her splenic projector, 5-1 splenic projector self would have her play, and winning big. Okay, so this is about Taylor. Interesting. I'm interested in getting the book, but just food for thought, right? Okay, so our second culture pop of the day, Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick has been busy. He has been working behind the scenes since that incredible Super Bowl performance. So Kendrick has just let me share my screen on this one. Actually, I'm not going to share my screen, but I'm going to read you something. Kendrick has just opened a new creative agency, which is very cool, with longtime collaborator Dave Free. They've officially launched it, and it's called Project 3 Agency, a global creative agency born out of their media company, PG Lang. Their mission is to do things differently from the creative agency point of view. Positioned at the intersection of music, storytelling, and cultural branding, the platform aims to give both artists and brands greater creative autonomy. Now, this is not, he's not the first artist or songwriter to go into the agency world, but it's not a common thing. But I want to look at Kendrick's astrology for where we can see why this is such a good move for him and how this is really using a lot of his genius so well. Their goal is to really work with independent companies as well as corporate to like up level their game. You can imagine how much creativity and just, beautiful creative thinking is going to come in here. I just keep thinking of the word creative. The word creative is just like hammering. That is the word when it comes to Kendrick Lamar. Okay, so look at this chart. So this is his astrology chart. For those of you who can't see, I'm going to describe, all right? He has his sun in Gemini and Venus in Gemini. Mercury, Mars, and the midheaven are in Cancer. And then we have a Libra rising and a Pisces moon. Is this what you expected? I want to ask this really quickly because I would venture a guess that if you were trying to guess Kendrick Lamar's chart based on what you know about him, about his incredible Grammy Award-winning song, Not Like Us, and his career, and his, legendary status, on the West Coast, based on that, would you guess that he has this much water and air in his chart? Maybe the air, but I would venture a guess you wouldn't guess all this water. So the water energy in his chart shows me this immense amount of creativity. The air is communication, of course, and relationships. But what I want to hone in on here is this midheaven in Cancer. So the midheaven in Cancer, I call it in my archetype system, the gatherer, right? The gatherer is not always a softly, let's all hug kumbaya energy that a lot of people tend to think of Cancer as. Nothing wrong with that. I need hugs as much as the next person. But Cancer in the midheaven position is very fiery. It's actually really like, this like mama crab, like energy of protection and inclusiveness and just this like nurturing essence. And what's really interesting is when you think about Kendrick's lyrics and the things that he stands for and the message that he is bringing out, it's very much about pride, protection, love for Black people, right? And there's this sense of like, we're in this together and we need to back each other and they're not like us. Right? People who don't get it don't get to be included here. Very Cancerian, very Cancerian. You ruffle the crab, you get the claws, right? It's like fiercely protective of community. And I just want to pull that out because I think that's really interesting. I do see this placement with strong Cancer placements with a lot of rappers, which I think is really interesting. Very cool, very creative, very inclusive, very protective. So it'll be very interesting to see how this agency, what they're going to do, who they're going to work with, how Kendrick's going to bring some of his genius to the fore. Let's see how it plays out. All right. And by the way, a little note here. I love the combination of the Libra rising and the Cancer midheaven. I see that in quite a few people. A lot of you in my TikTok community have this as well. And we talk about this all the time. It is such a powerful connection between activist and protector, really, because you've got the Libra rising, which says, hey, I want peace and harmony, but not at the expense of fairness and justice. Libra will swing the freaking sword if it has to. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. Us Libras have to remember this, right? We are activists at heart. We all have this in us. Okay. So let's go to the last piece for today for Culture Pop, rage bait. Okay. We need to talk about the topic of rage bait. And I've got 3 images here, 3 stories I want to bring up here. So I want to talk about American Eagle and Sydney Sweeney's campaign. I want to talk about what Nara Smith is up to with her midnight snacking. And I want to talk about e.l.f. Cosmetics and the no, I'm gonna self-edit myself. And the disgraced comedian Matt Rife. Okay, I can talk about people I don't like on here. It's my podcast. So it's really interesting to see right now the kind of state of communication, the state of social media, the state of influencing. There's a thing happening, right, which we're all aware of, but we need to name it, called rage baiting. And it works to a point. It works, and it can create this like burst of activity. And we know why American Eagle did this. You know, just listen to the Prof G's podcast. They talked about this, like American Eagle was about to be downgraded in its stock, and they were on the edge, and they needed a boost, and it worked. And they soared in the stock prices because of this rage baiting, you know, campaign that essentially is, let's call a spade, promoting eugenics. Like, it's horrific. It's terrible, should never have gotten on past the cutting room floor, but we know why they did it, and it worked. And that's the thing with rage bait. And I think I want to look at the astrology for a moment, the astrology of our times. The planet Uranus just moved into Gemini. We also have a Pluto in Aquarius. We have a few other things. But the planet Uranus moving into Gemini is this kind of really interesting 7-year cycle that we are just beginning this year, where we are reconfiguring, re-understanding, disrupting, changing the nature of communication and social interaction and technology. All of these things are interconnected, right? And so the way that we relate to each other is changing. We see that in AI, we see that in this rage bait trend, right? It's like everyone's trying to get attention. And the problem with rage bait is that it's attention at any cost, right? It doesn't matter who you're offending, what agenda you're promoting, you know, KKK. Like, it seems to not matter, right? But as long as you're getting the eyeballs and you're getting the attention, will this strategy really lead to long-term brand loyalty? I'm going to raise my hand and I'm going to put money on it and say absolutely not. This is not going to lead to long-term brand loyalty, but this does lead to short-term attention. So I love how I went on a rant without actually telling you what these stories are. So if you have been living under a rock and you're not on TikTok as much as I am, then you may not know about these things. So it's not just on TikTok. I'm being facetious. But okay, so the first one is the American Eagle. So American Eagle put out a campaign with Euphoria actress and attendee at Jeff Bezos' wedding, Sydney Sweeney. And what was said, let me just read exactly so that, you know, I'm not paraphrasing. Oop, let me move this. Exactly what was said. So in the ad, you know, they're doing this like play on words, which, you know, it's not innocent. Like, they know what they're doing. These people have degrees, they have experience, all the things. She says, genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality. I'm not going to do her voice. She does there's a lot of voice going on. Okay, personality and even eye color. My genes are blue. And it's clearly meant to indicate that she has superior genes, right? Being blonde, blue-eyed, white, superior. We get it. We're not idiots. So that campaign came out, like I said, did really well in the stock market. Everyone's like, oh my God, American Eagle, blah, 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 blah. How dare they? But also stock prices go up. The same week, I think it was, or the next week, Elf Cosmetics, who breaks my heart because I was a huge fan of them. Elf Cosmetics comes out with a campaign with Matt Rife as one of the faces. And Elf Cosmetics is a makeup brand, right? Well loved, primary audience is women. And they bring out this disgraced comedian of, limited articulateness and talent. They bring him out and they put him at the forefront of the campaign. And the thing you need to know about Matt Rife is that he got a Netflix special and opened the special with making fun of women who experience domestic violence. It's not funny. That's what we call punching down. It's cheap and it's just ridiculous. He should have been canceled from this, but he seems to have bagged himself a deal with a primarily women-focused makeup brand. People are pissed, and they put out an apology, but they didn't take the ad down. So, what's interesting is that both of the American Eagle ad and the Elf Cosmetics Matt Rife ad were both produced by the same PR agency called Shadow. Yeah. Rage bait is now a strategy. The last thing I want to share is just a bit of a funny one. So Nara Smith did a video the other day and everyone's talking about it, where she said, hey guys, I just wanted to share my, midnight snack. It's my favorite thing. I've been craving it so much. It's a deconstructed salad. Okay, guys, let's be real. It is a piece of lettuce with squeezed lemon and cracked black pepper on top of it. Ridiculous. Everyone is like, okay, obviously she's making fun of herself here. The whole I make it from scratch and I'm so whatever, and diet culture, I would assume as well. But yeah, people got pissed and it's created a huge uproar and everyone's talking about it and writing think pieces about it. And I'm talking about it here with you. So, I thought it was another kind of more funny, a little bit more lighter example of rage bait and people using rage bait to get attention and to make waves. It does work, but here's the thing. As business owners, I do not think we should be engaging with rage bait if our goal is to build loyalty with our audience over time. Because people remember not what you said, but how you make them feel. I and thousands of people will never buy Elf Cosmetics again because of the way they made us feel. They made us feel that they do not care about women and their safety, and they care more about clicks and a headline than they do about protecting their customers. That is not the legacy that you want for your company. So that's my 2 cents. I hope you enjoyed our first ever culture pop. There are a million stories I could have talked about today. I didn't even get to talk about Mr. Beast, although I do have a video on that I'm going to share on my TikTok. So go and let me know what stories you want me to talk about next. We're going to do this pretty regularly. Get into it, talk astrology, be careful of Uranus in Gemini and the kind of lack of regard for truth, right? And all of these things. It is a very interesting time to be alive. Let me leave it at that. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Talk to you later.